following Chalk Talk is brought to you by Isolite, the emergency lighting experts. Stay educated, my friends.
It's hard to believe today is the last day of July, but we made it. We're Evan and I located here in eastern Pennsylvania. We're getting hit with some thunderstorms. Finally, a break in the heat here. But thank you for joining us for this Chalk Talk. You'll see here on the screen that Evan, our presenter today, our director of product development, is going to be discussing the OLLO. And you may be thinking to yourself, I thought I attended a Chalk Talk earlier this spring that introduced this product, and you would be correct. We did do that, but like my wife says, what's better than one bottle of wine? Two bottles of wine. What's better than one Chalk Talk? Introducing the OLLO, but two Chalk Talks. So with us now ready to start taking orders and shipping, Evan wanted to present on this today, give you guys some updates on the release of this product. So again, I'm Greg Keel. Matt's on the road, but thanks for joining us. And without further ado, I'll hand it off to Evan.
I feel like I should have changed the intro music to Singing in the Rain because we are getting slaughtered right now. There is a lot of rain floating around, but that's not going to dampen our spirits here. We're going to talk about the OLLO. As Greg mentioned, we talked about this a couple months ago, but now that it's here, we thought that maybe we'd go back over kind of the problems that we were intending to solve with the product line, really what the opportunities were for the OLLO. And so that's what we're going to do, but there's some new information in here as well. We have a new highlight video that we're going to show off to you guys today, and a couple other things in there that will give you an overview of what the OLLO is, how it's going to fit into your business. At the end, I do want to do a quick touch base on another new product that we've been kind of silently shipping. That's the ELCD 1008, as you can see on the bottom there. We've changed the design a little bit, although you might have not noticed, and well, we didn't tell you, frankly, but I wanted to just give you a rundown of what that looked like. As always, this is a Chalk Talk, and you guys can certainly ask questions even though you're muted. Just put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Now, Greg wasn't available for the Tuesday morning intro, and so I ended up using a quote from Colin Chapman, who was the CEO and head engineer at Lotus, the racing team. And someone asked him what his approach to engineering the car was. And his answer was pretty good. He said, simplify and then add lightness. And I hadn't really intended it to be super meaningful, but as I was giving the presentation, I realized that simplifying and adding lightness is kind of what we have done to our product line. So if you look at the product line as it exists today, we have a lot of capabilities across a pretty large array of products, but it's kind of disjointed. And that disjointedness is really a side effect of complexity, or maybe it's a cause of or an effect of different lamp wattages and voltage, battery wattages and voltage, different battery types that you have to select, different lamp types, different lamp heads, and then options galore. All this stuff makes sense when you think about the history of the industrial emergency lighting product line. These were kind of the original emergency lights. And so they've had lots of time to accrue some detritus. You know, someone asks for something very special. We go and we add it to one product, but we didn't do it across the board. And so we end up with some disjointedness in the product line that really needs simplification if we use our quote of the day there. And that does nothing to say anything about the look and feel of these products. And really, what can you say? Let's just say that form follows function. I think it really shows in the design of these things. Basically, the overarching design philosophy was how much battery do we need to put inside of it and how many circuit boards? Let's wrap a sheet steel box around it and move on with life. And so, you know, really it was designed from the inside out, not the outside in, which is kind of how we design products now. So we thought that maybe there was an opportunity to kind of make it look a little bit better as well. All this kind of leads to product line confusion. What is the right product for me? What do I care about the lamp heads? Why do I care about the different battery types? It really just creates confusion, and that's kind of friction towards a nice, smooth, easy to understand product line. It's of course not all doom and gloom. There are things like Class 1 Div 2 products. Those are pretty obvious in terms of their applications. Sometimes the aesthetic of like the owl or the ELED really drives us towards being in a wall pack type situation. But the simple sheet steel lunchbox bug eye, that's a pretty confusing product line with pretty confusing option sets across it. And so the OLLO is really our solution to it, and I'd like to introduce you to it again via a highlight video now. Now, of course, all that information comes at you pretty fast in the video. And so I want to go through some of the details and highlights of the thing that you've seen there. First and foremost, as I mentioned on the form following function slide a few minutes ago, the old ones look ugly. And really, when we started designing the OLLO, we took a different tack than we usually do. We really went from the perspective of the people who are going to be occupying the space with the product. And so, first and foremost, we decided it had to look really nice, not just industrial, but almost at home in sort of architectural places as well. So, really clean lines, modern finishes, a modern look, lamp heads that actually match the style of the body. Really just trying to prove to the world that industrial doesn't mean ugly. It doesn't have to be a big folded sheet steel box. We really sought out to make this a pretty product. And it's not just a pretty face, though. It's very functional in terms of what we designed. Again, looking at all of those options that existed across the product lines before, we really wanted to account for all of those different applications and use cases when we were designing it. And so, this fits in both outdoor and indoor applications. From an outdoor perspective, we've got pretty aggressive ratings. We've got NEMA 4X on this product, and then a heater that can accommodate temperatures as low as -40 degrees, which is very cold, and that's a lot of water. So this is very comfortable in outdoor applications. Obviously, the majority are probably going to be the indoor industrial traditional applications, and we've done a lot of work there too. My quote of the day: simplify and add lightness. When Colin Chapman was talking about it, he meant lightness in terms of the opposite of heaviness. We have not done that. We have made a very heavy die cast, robust product. The thing weighs a fair amount, frankly. It's kind of a beefcake, so it's very industrial. If something hits it, it's not going to break or fall. The remote lamp heads are all kind of attached to it. And we have remote lamp heads that match aesthetically. So if you have one of those applications where you don't put lamp heads on the main unit itself, you can go add those remote lamps really throughout the facility. So really accounting for both the indoor and outdoor applications that you're likely to see. The other thing that comes up frequently as it relates to industrial emergency lights are kind of weird mounting situations. The vast majority of installations are going to use the flush mount box that you saw in the video, but we also have this universal mount that you can see over here on the right. That's meant to surface mount and sort of form its own waterproof enclosure if you don't have a junction box in the wall to do your wire terminations. This is going to be common in applications where maybe you're mounting to like a cast concrete wall, or potentially something outside that just doesn't have a junction box baked into it. That also allows for direct conduit entry like you'd see over there on the side and bottom, and it's also on the top and other side as well. This box also accommodates unistrut-based connections as well as attachment to poles via the pole straps. Again, you saw that in the video that I showed you a few minutes ago. The other thing that's pretty cool, not just on the universal box, but even on the flush mount box as well, you can kind of see these chamfers here, right? This is angled. This is what's called a French cleat. And so the way that the OLLO mounts is you do your wiring in the box, whether it's the universal box there or the junction box that it's attached to. The electrician can do that, and then the OLLO kind of just hangs off of the top, and then a set screw locks it in from the bottom, and then it just pulls it tight onto the box, sort of forming that gasket. So you never have to open the OLLO to install it. It ships with the batteries connected. Everything is connected and installed, and so that allows us to basically make the installation easier, but also guarantee the integrity of the waterproofing in all the applications that it's likely to go into. So it's a good thing really for everybody. And when Craig Chapman said lightness, as I said, he was talking about the opposite of heaviness, but I really mean it in terms of performance. So because we needed a smaller package than a lot of these industrial emergency lights would fit in, we chose a very modern battery chemistry, lithium iron phosphate, and we have it in 1632 and 64 watt units. That lithium iron phosphate battery is small. It has a lot of energy density. It doesn't have charge memory, so it's a very long lasting high density battery, which allows us to make the unit small and also reliable over the lifetime of the product. The heads all look the same, but they do come in three different wattages, 4, 8, and 16 watts. That's up to 1,531 lumens. But it's not just the lumen output, it's kind of how those get deployed. As you saw in the video, the heads are actually adjustable. So you can see that collar up by the lens that slides in and out and allows the head to go from a very wide, broad spread to a very narrow, long spread. So you can do an entire square of a warehouse or a very, very long corridor all off of the same unit without having to specify a special lamp head for the different applications. And we can furnish no lamp heads, 2 or 4 lamp heads on the unit. So a lot of flexibility kind of baked into that package. The other thing that's standard in this product is a 2-hour runtime. That's important because it's above and beyond what's actually required by NFPA 101. So we get that because of the energy density of those batteries. We have a little bit of extra capacity in there. And so we got it UL listed for extended runtimes normally. And as I said, this is a complete line of products. So it's not just the lamp heads that go on the unit, but we also have a base for remote lamp heads, and that comes in a single or double headed version. Same lamps are being used here, so 4, 8, and 16 watts, and they have that focusability or beam adjustability, whatever you want to call it. The entire family is available in an array of colors: white, black, bronze, and gray. I've been calling bronze terracotta because I'm a fancy lad, but it matches the other bronzes in our product line that we have today. This leads to us to the ordering guide, which is pretty standard for an industrial unitary product. Lamp wattage, body color, head count, the lamp wattages, the mounting, and then the options. One note here: you do have to specify whether you want wet location. That'll tell us whether to put all of the gaskets in. And if you're going to ask for a heater, it has to be a wet location unit. We actually rely on the insulation provided by the gaskets to keep that heat inside of the unit. And so the heater is really only available on the wet location units. In an earlier version of this presentation, and sort of when we originally published the cut sheets, we had that universal mounting box being an option, and we realized that that was a mistake. Not the least of which because we would package it separately anyway, but we wanted the ability to pre-install or add this after the fact. And so it has its own accessory model number, and they're color matched. So if you order a bronze body, you can get a bronze universal mounting box. There's enough applications where you can see that mounting box, and so we wanted to make sure that it was color matched for all of those. We also offer it with the pole mount straps. Same thing, you get the box and the pole mount straps. They technically work with with the standard flush mount, but we didn't really foresee any applications where if you had a box, you wouldn't want to just use the box. So the universal surface box is where you end up seeing those pull mount straps. If I'm wrong about that, let me know and we'll certainly adjust our plan there. Similar stuff on the OLLO R. Really, the only difference there is you don't specify the battery capacity and you don't have to specify the cold temperature heater option because there's no battery in here to keep warm. So give me a color, give me a head count, give me the wattage, and then just plug and chug from there. So pretty good. We said the OLLO is here, and that's true. The parts are sitting outside of my office right now. We're going to make it available for ordering on August 18th. That'll allow us to get all of our sort of manufacturing tooling vetted. Orders will be subject to standard lead times. These are not build to stock items. They're build to order items with a lot of customization. So you'll expect to see a little bit of a lead time akin to our other products when you order it. And importantly, usually in these presentations, when I'm announcing a new product, I gleefully decry that we're going to discontinue a bunch of stuff. We're not doing that here. We're not discontinuing anything at this point in time. I can't promise that'll be the same case a year from now, but there's enough use cases that we're worried either have specs that have been used for a long time, or you just don't need all of the industrialness of the OLLO. We think it probably accounts for 80% of the installations, but we're not discontinuing anything yet. We have some other developments based on this platform that will cause us to discontinue stuff, but that day is not today. So you're good until the beginning of next year at the very least. There are a few caveats to our availability. To just streamline our manufacturing run. We're only offering it in white and gray. Initially, the bronze and black are on a boat right now on their way over. So that'll be coming really at the end of Q3. And that's true of both the main body and the remotes. The weird thing is that we can only offer two-headed remotes right now. Originally, we had only intended on offering the double head because it just looks so much better. The single head version looks a little bit goofy. We kind of made the decision late to add the single-headed version into the lineup, and so it's on a little bit of a delay as well. But we think that most people will want the two-headed remote just because of the flexibility that it provides. And then from a slightly strange specification standpoint, everything has a 2-hour runtime standard except the cold temperature 16-watt unit. Same temperature rating at -40°C, but it's only rated for a standard 90-minute runtime. There's just not enough extra capacity in that small battery to get all the way up to 2 hours when the batteries are sitting at -40°C. So keep that in mind. Standard runtime for the 16 watt is still 2 hours. It's just when you add the cold temperature, we have to back it off just a hair. I told you we were going to talk about the ELCD 1008 a little bit as well. We have already silently started shifting orders over to the new version of it. It looks pretty much identical, but if you've seen one recently, you'll notice there's a couple additions. From a non-obvious addition, we've moved to latching relays, which reduces our power consumption and allows us to lower the cost on it. From a customer-facing change, we've added an integrated dimming in emergency mode. So if you're familiar with our E3 mini product line, where you've got that little twisty dial that allows you to take your 0 to 10 volt fixtures down to 20% in emergency mode, that same feature now exists in the ELCD 1008. So that's pretty cool. It allows a lot of functionality, kind of takes some of the burden off of the inverter or the generator that the emergency lights are attached to. The other thing was a frequently asked for feature from the field, and that was a field selectable time delay on the transfer back to normal power. And so we've added that in. So it's a 1 second to 15-minute delay that will just artificially delay the return over to normal power. So if that's a requirement for you, then you can certainly utilize that feature. And then maybe most importantly, we've lowered the cost and added a 5% price to the lineup. So same great taste, new low cost, more features. It's kind of a win-win-win. The cut sheets are already updated. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that there was a change to this product line that we didn't really announce to people. And that's kind of what we got for the OLLO. All of the documentation and information is available online already. There is one caveat to that availability. The install guide is already up, but it combines the installation for the OLLO and the OLLO R, the remote lamp heads. We're probably going to split those apart. there's enough difference between the remote and the main body that it's starting to get onerous in the install guide. So we're probably going to split that. Look forward to that here in the next couple days. And then, as always, as a follow-up to this Chalk Talk, you're going to get copy of the slide deck that you can use, an audio video version of me giving the presentation, and then all of the assets associated with the product line. So you have access to that for your own marketing initiatives. Certainly appreciate you joining us here during the thunderstorm of the season. I'm Evan. Tom, Greg, and Matt are always available to you. So if you have any questions about the OLLO or anything else that we're doing, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We certainly appreciate all the support that you give to us. So anything we can do to support and assist you, we're certainly in for. That'll do it for me here on the last Chalk Talk of the month. We'll see you in August. If you've got questions, throw them in the chat now.